Most everybody develops certain go-to meals that they literally go back to again and again, week after week and year after year. And when you eat a low-carb diet, you do that, well, all the more. In my case, my go-to meals tend to have three attributes. First, they're low in carbs. Second, they're quick to make. And three, they taste good and I enjoy them. Over time, I sometimes find new go-to meals, and sometimes I just make modifications on meals that I've been eating for years. And I wanted to share with you a slight modification I made to one of my favorite quick meals, the breakfast sandwich. Actually, for me, it's not a breakfast sandwich, since most of my breakfasts are simply a mug of coffee with cream and a tablespoon of butter in it, giving me satiating fat, but essentially no glucose spike or even a rise. So I often eat breakfast sandwiches for dinner, and I guess that makes them dinner sandwiches. But even the word sandwich is not quite accurate, since a sandwich implies you eat some kind of meat in between two wheat buns with a lot of carbs. If I ever eat anything resembling a sandwich, I will only eat a bottom bun and leave off the top. But even the bottom bun will be some kind of keto bread. Until recently, I used a single slice of keto bread at the bottom of my dinner sandwich, which was usually toasted. My cooking device for these sandwiches is a Hamilton Beach breakfast sandwich maker, this baby right here. My daughter bought this for me nearly 10 years ago, and I've used it pretty regularly ever since. Some gifts you receive and you put them away and hardly use them. Others you use all the time, and this is one of my old favorite devices that I do use a lot. It has never failed, and the beauty of making my little meal in this device is that once I put the ingredients in it, my meal is done in about 4 minutes. Now, of course, you can make these without a fancy sandwich maker like this one. You could just heat up some meat and an egg in a pan and then place them over some kind of toasted keto bread, or just eat them by themselves without any kind of bread at all. Or you could cook your egg in a small egg pan like this one to make sure your egg is nice and round. But I kind of like this sandwich maker. And recently I tried a new type of bread for the bottom of the sandwich that worked beautifully. Now, new keto products are always appearing on the grocery store shelves these days, and I'm not above trying them out and seeing what Mike the glucose meter has to say about them. A while back, I found these tiny little tortillas made by La Banderita. They're called carb counter tortillas, and they boast of two things. First, they claim to have 0 net carbs, which theoretically implies they will not raise glucose at all. I know that doesn't work for everybody, but it usually works pretty close for me. Secondly, they declare to be keto certified. I've seen that seal on other keto-type foods in the stores, and I got curious and took a look at their website, which is ketocertified.com. They appear to be some kind of a lab that tests and certifies certain foods that boast that they're keto, and it tests them to see if they really are. I don't know enough about this company to endorse them, but I like the idea. If they are accurately doing what they say they are, it could be a real service. These little tortillas, let me just pull one out so you see what I'm talking about here. They call them little street tortillas. These little tortillas have 14 grams of total carbs for 2 of them, which means 7 total carbs for 1 tortilla, which is all I plan to eat with this meal. And that makes me feel pretty safe. Even in the worst case scenario, if every one of those total carbs does indeed affect my blood sugar, 7 grams of carbs for a meal is not much at all. And if all those fiber carbs really do what fiber carbs are supposed to do, which is to be negligible in affecting my blood sugar, well, I ought to be in great shape after that meal with 1 tortilla possessing 0 net carbs. Now, I know some of you, and in fact some of the keto YouTuber creators, they just hate the idea of net carbs. They act like if you even mention the name net carbs, you're some kind of a lowlife, not worthy even being considered a low-carber. But the truth is that it's not total carbs that should be considered, and it's not really net carbs that should be considered. It is mic carbs. The carbs that offend and disturb your glucose meter, those are the ones you should be bothered by. But I often find that net carbs, at least in my case, are a pretty fair way of assessing whether Mike is going to be offended or not. In the case of these keto tortilla-based sandwiches, I've already used Mike, the glucose meter, to tell me about them. Last night I made a breakfast sandwich using one of these tortillas. I added some sausage I had left over from some keto pancakes I'd made before. I covered the sausage with cheese and then put a fried egg on top. This was my dinner meal. Before eating, my glucose was at 97 milligrams per deciliter. 1 hour after eating, it rose to 100. 2 hours after eating, it dropped to 94. And after 3 hours, it was at 102. So my glucose levels were stable, and they basically just floated around that 100 milligram per deciliter mark with no spike at all. Mike didn't seem to have a problem with this little keto tortilla, at least when I ate one of them. Had I eaten 3 or 4, well, that might have been a different story. There are 2 reasons that I really like these little tortillas as a base for my breakfast sandwiches, which I convert to a dinner sandwich. First, I like the taste of them. They really don't taste any different from ordinary tortillas. They're really good. And second, when you press them into the sandwich maker, they form a kind of a bowl, and you end up with a space where you can pile on any low-carb ingredients you like and really fill up your little bowl. They sort of remind me of a chicken pot pie, but without the carbs and without the top. And when you eat them, well, they just feel good in your hand. Let's take a quick look at how to make this sandwich in the Hamilton Beach Sandwich Maker.
Turn the machine on by plugging it in. There is no off-on button. Lift up the upper section and place the tortilla in the bottom section. Slide it around so that it makes a nice little bowl. Place your meat in first. Last night I used a single piece of sausage, but tonight I am piling on the ham. Cover the ham with cheese, preferably from a cheese block rather than the individual wrapped slices which have more carbs. Then you can add more ham and more cheese until you fill up your bowl. Now lower the upper section and crack an egg in it, but wait until the green light comes on, otherwise the device will not be hot enough and your egg will leak through the cracks. I like to stir the egg to mix the yolk with the white of the egg. Now place the top down and set a timer for 4 minutes, or 5 if you like your sandwich well done. Wait the required time and then slide the egg lever over until the egg falls on top of the bowl of meat and cheese. Open the bottom section and then slide this little bowl of goodness onto a plate. Your breakfast sandwich will taste better if you wait about 5 minutes before eating it. Plus, it won't burn your mouth. Voila! You're done. You have a 4-minute breakfast sandwich that tastes great and barely budges your glucose.
So there you have it. It's a great tasting fast meal. When you come to the kitchen and have no idea what low-carb meal you're going to make for your lunch or your dinner, this baby will do the job. And if you don't think you could get full on one of these, eat a little extra ham and eggs or ham and cheese to go along with it. You'll get full, and your blood sugar will go nowhere. Now, if you absolutely cannot stand the idea of eating store-bought keto tortillas, you can make your own low-carb tortillas. I've made a couple of different videos about homemade tortillas. My favorite are the almond flour/lupin tortillas, but they do take a little time to make. A link to these videos is in the description. God bless you. See you again soon.
I want to encourage you to join Benedict and me in our home through our new podcast, Discover the Word with Den and Ben. While you drive in your car or while you walk or exercise at the gym, you can be learning the Bible through our low-key, user-friendly Bible studies. To get the information you need to listen to our Discover the Word with Den and Ben podcast, click on the link in the description.